Welcome, welcome, welcome. Now, if you've been looking at the videos in my channel, then you've probably figured out that since I decided to start making videos more often, that I've decided to make this channel a sort of video potpourri. Meaning I'm going to make videos about whatever I want, whenever I want, for whyever I want. And maybe you'll join me for the ride, and maybe not. Either way, have fun. Now, you're probably expecting from this video that I'm going to make some kind of response to Joker here from the Better Bachelor channel, as if he said something that I disagree with. No, that is actually not the case. How surprising. I'm actually making a video to sort of augment and go in deeper into things that Joker is talking about. You see, as I've said before, if you've watched my previous videos, I've studied science for many, many years, and I wanted to talk about the things that Joker is talking about in this video. This is a video where it is titled Answering an Important Question with Some Life Experience and a Study on Happiness. Now, happiness, that's a very interesting thing. Now, as you may have learned from my How to Learn video, I approach psychology from a different perspective than most people approach psychology. I approach it from a more physical standpoint, through the lens of machine coding and quantum mechanics and so forth, because realistically, psychology is algorithmic physics. So, happiness. It's a very interesting concept, happiness. Oh, we should all want to be happy, shouldn't we? Shouldn't we? I find it very interesting to want to pursue happiness all the time. Here's a question for you. When you were first born, were you happy? Were you sad? You probably don't remember. Have you ever seen a child just been born? Was it naturally happy? Was it naturally sad? Or maybe it was neither. Now, since human psychology, as I said, is more algorithmic physics, it also relates to many things in the physical world. Things like concentration and dilution. What happens when you add a substance like a dye to a liquid? Well, it spreads out and becomes uniform, the same all across. I want you to think of happiness and sadness in this way. You see, I have this term that I like to use. I call it situational fatigue. Situational fatigue is a sort of catch-all term because not only does it refer to a person's mood, but it also refers to a person's physical state as well, because we get fatigued by things. Now, you may call it normalization. I don't really like using the term normalization because it implies that or rather, I should say, it doesn't imply that physiological changes are going on. So, how were you when you were born? Well, you were probably content. That's not something that many people bother pursuing now, is it? No, we all have to pursue being happy, don't we? As I've asked in a previous video, what is your God? Well, some people have multiple gods. Sometimes, actually many times, for a lot of people, one of those gods is the pursuit of happiness. Well, why do we pursue this feeling of happiness? Well, endorphins, little narcotics that our brains produce to make ourselves feel better, because we're all just happiness junkies, aren't we? Well, what happens if we've been around in a situation that makes us happy, as Joker here explained? Well, we just get used to it. It doesn't really affect us anymore. It is normalized. We have become fatigued by the situation. Same thing with being sad. If we've been sad, well, after a while, you just kind of get used to what happened to you. It normalizes. We've become fatigued by the situation. And what do we typically refer to? Well, most people return to. Most people typically return to content. Oh, but we're supposed to pursue being happy. And I'm supposed to speak better and a little more clearly and not stumble on my words so much. Too bad. But here's an idea. Try to pursue contentment. What a radical idea. Now, as I said, my term situational fatigue covers not only psychological issues, but it also covers physical issues as well. This has to do with things like auditory fatigue, which is when you hear something so much that eventually you just drown it out. Or olfactory fatigue. If you smell something so long, like your own body odor, go take a shower, that you just get used to the smell. Ocular fatigue, which used to be referred to as chicken line syndrome. These things happen. You just get used to seeing things, and your mind just ignores them. Not really because you're trying to fool yourself or trick yourself, but your brain is a processor. And just like any other smart device, if it doesn't need to process a certain amount of information, it might not, just to save time. Now, another thing Joker talks about in this video is goals. Goals, now this is the one thing where maybe I have to slightly disagree with Joker here about pursuing goals. I've never really found goals to be useful. One thing I've always found to be useful, though, are questions. You know what? I like the idea of playing an instrument. I wonder how good I can become at it. Let's find out. You know what? I've had trouble understanding this course of study. I wonder if I can do better at it. Let's find out. Goals are not so important. Typically, for myself, I've found goals to be really just an obstruction to life. But what is important is directions. The way you travel. You see, life is a journey. And really, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey, isn't it? So why should you focus so much on goals? I've always found it much more enjoyable to focus on a direction. Maybe today, I'll walk a mile or two. Maybe today, I'll learn that subject that I was never good at in school, because maybe in the future it might help me out. Or maybe I just want to see if I can. I've always found this to be a much more healthier approach to life. Now, I will give a little information about yours truly. Many people in my life have considered me to be a rather depressed person. But you see, dear frenemy, the only time I've ever really been depressed in my life is when I've been inundated with this notion that there's something wrong with me because I don't want to be happy, because I'd rather just be content.